Hello, beautiful people. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching me from right now. Thank you so much for coming live. So today, in today's live video, I'm going to be sharing with you on how to cut a full cassock. So I have this video on my channel. I have it as a video. I have it as a live video also on my channel. But I keep on getting some requests that I should make another video again on how to cut a full cassock. And as I said earlier in the trailers that I sent, I said I want to formalize this so that I want to have unique viewers that will watch how I cut and sew my cassock. So that is why I want to make this a members only video, whereby as a member you'll have the opportunity to directly ask me questions, and then I'll have the privilege also to directly give you answers. That is why I'm making this live video a members only video. So, and it's very simple. For you to join a member, for you to be a member, is just a token of 1,500 naira if you are from Nigeria, and if you're from the diaspora, it's just $1, just $1 for you to be a member. All right, so and that is that. Now let's move right into the tutorial. Now let's move right into the video. Sorry. So as you can see here is a typical example of a cassock, and this one has no cape. As I said earlier, I've explained this in my previous videos, that you have two different types of cassocks. There is the one that like this, which has no cape, and you also have the one with the cape. It depends on your preference, and I think those in the theological school or seminary school would actually know the difference. So as a designer that wants to know how to make cassock, you should be able to make both the one that does not have a cape and the one that has a cape. And the difference is just the cape, all right? The difference is the cape. Now, and the difference is what in making a cassock that has cape, what you just need to do is to attach your collar to the cape, and then you attach it to the main bodies. All right, but for the one for like this, the example of this one that does not have a cape, there is no need for you to cut a cape. There is no need for you to attach your collar to your cape. The only thing for you to do is to attach your collar to your main dress, to the main bodies. Now this cassock is a male cassock, but I don't have a male mannequins yet. That is why I am putting it on a female. I have just a female mannequins, and that is why I'm putting it on the female mannequins. But this particular cassock is for a male. Now, things I'm going to be sharing and showing you on this video includes, you can see here the front bodies here. Now you have this overlap. You can see this overlap. Here is the overlap where you have the button. Sometimes it depends on how you want to make your cassock. Here in front, you can decorate it with your buttons, or you can decorate it with trimmings, or you can decorate it to your preference. So now for a typical cassock, this is how it looks like. So here has to be plain, and then there is another one inside that holds the buttonholes. And now you must take note of this, that this one actually, this one inside must be 1/4 of an inch shorter compared to this outer overlap, which means that this outer overlap must not, this inner overlap must not exceed this outer overlap. So you can see that even just the way you're looking at it right now, you cannot know, if you are not a designer, you cannot really know or identify that there is another layer inside. So that is why the inner layer must be at least must be quarter of an inch shorter to this outer layer, which means that this outer layer must be longer or wider than this inner layer. So that is for this overlap. Now, another very important thing I would like you to know is concerning the collar. So you can see how the collar is sitting. And then another thing I'm going to make you understand is that I want to show you is the sleeve. As you can see, there is an overlap on the sleeve also. I've explained this. Now, this overlap, I always say it, that your overlap must not exceed the elbow region. Okay, so if you are making your overlap, the height must not exceed the elbow region of whoever you are making the cassock for. So as you can see this now, this is the elbow of the mannequin, so it's not even up to the elbow. So also it should be on your client. It shouldn't get to the elbow of your client. At least just this length is okay. You can make it even shorter depending on what you desire. So this is an overlap. I'm going to show you how to cut an overlap also. And then the pockets. So you can see this is the pocket. So here is the pocket. I hope you are seeing it clearly. Okay, so here is the pocket. So you can see the pocket is attached to the side. So I had to hold these mannequins because I told you, as I said earlier, that this garment is a male cassock. So because I don't have a male mannequin, that is why I'm putting it on a female mannequin. So here is it. Now, one thing I want you to take note of is the fact that this you can see the triangle at the back. So you can see this triangle. So here is the triangle at the back. Now for this overlap here at the back, so I made this 4 inches. So that is why my triangle also is going to be 4 inches. So whatever you have as this, whatever you have inside here, that is what you're going to have as your triangle length. If inside here is 3 inches, then your triangle length also must be 3 inches. But if what you have inside, like this allowance that is always inside, that forms this pleat. You know, I'm going to show you in the cuttings now. When cutting the back, you fold in this allowance that gives room for these pleatings that you have at the back. So whatever you have as this inner allowance, that should be what you make, that should be the measurement that you're going to use for this triangle. So here what I have here is 4 inches. So that is why for my triangle also I used 4 inches. Now what I was showing you, I shared this in when I was explaining on how to take measurement for a cassock. Now you can see this center back, like the nape of your back. from that point, I hope you can see what I am explaining, okay? So from this point down to, this garment is for a taller individual. The person owing, having this cassock is taller compared to the mannequins. So yes, as I was explaining, that this center back must correlate with the sides of the pocket. That is how your cassock can have a very nice fitting. All right, so this center back, as you can see, this center back, where the triangle is, must be on the same level as the pocket. So, which is very important. And how can you achieve this? When you measure, from the shoulder down to the side, when you measure from the shoulder down to the waist, for a cassock is different. The way you measure for a cassock is different from the way you measure for every other outfit. Now, when you want to measure the waist for a cassock, the waist of a cassock is always the half length, which means that you're going to put your tape measure on the shoulder, then you measure down to the half length. So when you measure down to the half length, it automatically gives you the same length from the center back down to this back dip. So that at the end of the day, after you're done cutting and sewing, this triangle here correlates and corresponds and also is on the same line as the side pockets. Now this is how you fix. This is how you fix the pocket of a cassock. So this is how you fix the pocket of a cassock. You can see this overlap. Both splits are overlapping on each other. So this overlap, while cutting this overlap, when you get to the side, we had when you get to the half length, then you will have like 3 or 4 inches extra for the pocket allowance. Yeah, that pocket allowance that you had, that is what gives you these splits at the side. Now this is the pocket. So you can see here is the pocket. So I can easily put in my hands and then put out. So this is the pocket. This is how the pocket should be. So you should fix the pocket. And this is the overlap I was explaining earlier. As you can see that it's laying. So now let's go right into the cutting tutorial. So please, if you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments. Just leave your questions in the comments and I'll be there to give answers to your questions. Okay, so now in cutting a cassock, in cutting a cassock now, for the length, you're going to be measuring. Let's assume that the length, the first thing you need to know is the length. So let's assume that the length you are making is 58 inches. Let's take that as an example. Now that 58 inches, you're going to be adding, you're going to be adding 4-inch extra. So that gives you 62. Now, on the length of your material, of your fabric, you're going to measure the 62 inches. So for this particular one that I'm making, the length of this is not 58 inches. Now, the length of this is 52, and then I added 4-inch sewing allowance, which makes it 56. That is for the front panel. Now, when you want to cut the back panel, you see that on a cassock, there has to be an overlay. Like on the example of this mannequin that I have, there is an overlay. So it depends on, now this overlay, it depends on the body measurement of the individual. For a very chubby person, you need to add as much as 2 or 2.5 inches, or even 3 inches as the overlay. But for a normal sized person, 2 inches or 2.5 is fine. You can even use 2 inches generally for a normal sized individual. I mean an adult. But when it comes to a chubby individual, like the person is chubby, when I say chubby, there's some men that have pot belly, sorry. So for those kind of individuals, you can use like 4 inches for their overlay, because the more the belly, the more you had as allowance. So that, why are you doing this? Is to make the cassock sit properly on that individual, so that it will be moving, so that the cassock will be moving back and forth on the shoulder of the individual, so that it can stand properly and sit well on the individual. That is why you need to add an extra inches for the overlap. So for this individual now, we've already cut out the front, which is our normal length, the length of that individual, plus 4 inches extra allowance. Now that 4 inches extra allowance, why you are having that 4 inches extra allowance, is the point is the fact that you're going to be using ½ inch from that 4 inches to attach the front to the back at the shoulders. Now you're left with 3.5 inches. So coming down at the hem of this cassock, you're going to be folding in that 3.5 inches, which means that you're going to fold in ½ inch. So the hem of your cassock is going to be left with 3 inches. So you're going to fold in the hem of the cassock with the remaining 3.5 inches. The ½ inches is going in, then the remaining 3 inches will be the one at the hem of the cassock. That is why you should add 4 inches extra allowance. So I'm going to make this into a straight line. So here is my back panel. Now I'm going to be keeping the back panel aside. And I'm going to be working on just the front panel only for now. So here is the front panel that we're going to be working on first. Now, as I've explained to you earlier, the first thing we're going to be cutting out, we're going to be cutting out the overlap first. This overlap, this and this. So this here is going to be on one side, and then this other one on the other side. So this is what I want to show you how to achieve now. So to achieve that, the first is to achieve that overlap effect. You're going to fold on the front panel here. So you're going to fold in 6 inches. This is the front panel. You're going to fold in 6 inches. So here, this is 6 inches. You're going to make sure you fold in 6 inches from one point, from this point down to this point. So here is 6 inches. So you can achieve that with your iron. So this is it. This is 6 inches here, 6 inches here, 6 inches here, 6 inches here, 6 inches here. So when I open it up, this is it. This is the 6 inches. Now the next thing you're going to do is, now I'm going to be folding this into 3 folds, like this. So you can see 1, 2, 3. We're going to be folding into 3 folds like this. Now, as I said earlier, that this inner one must be 1/4 of an inch shorter compared. So here, this one here will be the one inside. Now this is going to be the one outside. So this one outside must be at least 1/4 of an inch longer than the one inside. So you can either use your pins, your safety pins, to hold it down. But when you fold in this way, I'll advise you to use your office pin to hold it down first. So I'm going to use your office pin to hold it down, or you can use your iron to pin this down. So here I'm going to be holding this down with my pen. So you can see I've pinned this down. Now the next thing I'm going to use my iron to hold it. Now, I hope you guys can see what is actually happening. Let me bring it closer so that you can see. Let me bring it closer. So you can see that this is how I achieved. You can see that it's like 1/4 of an inch. So you can see a little difference. So as you, I hope you can see. So that is it. Now that is for the first side. So this is for one side. Now we're moving on to the other side. Now for the other side. So for this other side, what you're going to be folding in is 2 inches. Like 2 inches. So I'm going to fold in 2 inches. So here is the 2 inches. So I'll fold in 2 inches here. 2 inches here. 2 inches like that all through. So here is my 2 inches. So now there is one very important secret I want to share with you that a lot of people don't really know about. Now in making of the cassock, I want you to know that there is a difference between the female cassock and the male cassock. And what is the difference? The difference is on the buttons, the side on which the buttons will be. For a male cassock, the buttons, that is this 2 inches that you fold in, this is going to be where your buttons will be. Now on this other side, this first side, so here this first layer will be where you're going to attach or fix your buttonholes. All right, and this other layer is the outer layer that will cover the buttonholes. Now for the buttons, for a male cassock, the buttons is always on the right side. While if you are making a female cassock, the buttons must be on the left side. So for us to achieve that, which means that when we want to cut this, and it's going to actually be a prerequisite for you when cutting this cassock. Now, what do I mean? This cassock we are making is for a male cassock, so which means that the buttons must be on the right side. Now to achieve that, I'm going to make sure that this buttons layer maintains and be on the right side. So here is the right side, which means that for my cuttings now, I'm going to be cutting this way. These 2 inches is going to be underneath, and then this other 2 folds is going to be on these 2 inches just like this, because this is a male cassock. But let's assume that I'm cutting for a female cassock, which means I'm going to be turning it the other way around. So now, when I turn it this way, it means that the button is going to be on the left side, well, and then while this overlap area is going to be on the right side. So then this is how I'll cut this cassock. But since you are making for a male, not a female, so it has to be the other way around. So please, I want you to take note of these very important things. So here, the 2 inches for the buttons is here. Then the other 6 inch that we folded for the buttonholes and the over and the outer layer is going to be on it. So this is how we are going to cut this cassock. Now, another very important secret I want to share with you is the fact that when cutting your cassock, you don't start your measurement from the tip here. So unlike for other outfits that you start your measurement from the tip of the fabric, for this cassock, we are not starting our measurement from the tip. Rather, we're going to measure 1 inch. Now, why are we measuring that 1 inch? We're measuring that 1 inch because of the buttons. Because we are leaving the button allowance. So since we're going to attach buttons to this, so we're going to be leaving the allowance for that button, and that is why we're going to leave out 1 inch. So I'm going to measure 1 inch. So I'm going to measure 1 inch all the way down. As you can see, so just use your pencil or something light so that it doesn't show on your garment. So just use something light to indicate the 1 inch like that, all through. Then we're going to be taking all our measurements from this 1 inch mark. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to be measuring out from the shoulder down to the hem of the cassock. Now the shoulder of this individual is 16. So divided by 2, that gives me 8, which means that I'm going to measure my 8. So I'll measure 8. So I'm going to measure my 8 inches from that 1 inch mark. Now I've marked my 8. Then I'm going to be adding ½ inch sewing allowance because I'm going to be attaching the sleeve to the shoulder. So I have to add the sewing allowance, and that is ½ inch. So which I'm going to add ½ inch sewing allowance here. Now, when I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure down to the chest line. From this 8.5 inches, I'll measure down to the chest line. Now for the chest line, I'm going to be using 9 inches. And this is a male garment. So for this male garment, you know, for a male, we call it chest. But for a female, we call it bust. So I'm going to be measuring from the shoulder down to the chest line. So you have to measure this on your client, from the shoulder down to the chest line. For my client, the shoulder down to the chest line is 11 inches. I'm going to measure 11 inches down. I'll mark it. Then from the shoulder, and then there is this very important thing. I've almost made the mistake too. You must be very, very vigilant and very careful. And this important thing is that, you know, this front, we're going to be overlapping the back panel on the front. Very important because we've already added the measurement. Now, to achieve that, what we're going to do is I'm going to take out, because I added 2.5 inches on the back, so which means that I'm going to be taking out 1.5 inches. Now, as we go on in the class, you'll understand why I'm taking out this 1.5 inches. Now I'll take out this 1.5 inches, and then from that point, I'm going to measure down to 11 inches, which is my chest point. I'll mark it there, and then I'll measure down to the half length, which is 19 inches. Then I'll mark it. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be repeating this measurement and ruling it out so that you can actually see what I am trying to do. Now I'm going to leave out this 1.5 inches again, and then I'll mark 11 inches, and then I'll mark 19 inches. Now I'll be making this into a straight line. So here is the chest line. Now I'll do same to the half length here. So here is the half length and here is the chest line. So here is the chest line and here is the half length. Now I'm going to measure. Now I'm going to measure the chest line, like the chest of this particular client. The chest is 45. All right, which means that divided by 4, that will give me 11.25. So I'm going to, from this 1 inch mark, I'm going to measure 11.25, and then I'll mark 11.25. Now, this is another secret. If your client tells you that he or she wants his garments to be free and he doesn't want it fitted, I'll advise you to measure the fitted measurement on the client. Then when you get to your cutting table, just like this, then you add in the allowance by yourself depending on the desired freeness of the client. Let's say, for example, now this 45 inches that I measured is the normal fitting, like the fitted measurement of my client. And then my client says he wants his garment free. He doesn't want it fitted. Let's assume he said he wants his garment fitted. Then I'll just add 1.5 inches freeness, because for a cassock, at least it must not be fitted on you. But some individual likes it fitted. So for those kind of individuals, I will add 1.5 inches allowance for the freeness. Then I'll add 1 inch as the sewing allowance. So that 1.5 I'm adding as the freeness is just to make it a little bit free so as to differentiate a cassock from the normal everyday wear. So that's why I'll add 1.5 inch allowance. If that is if the client says he wants it fitted. But if the client says he wants it free, he doesn't want it fitted, then I'll add 2.5 inches or 3 inches or 4 inches, depending on how much the client wants this free. So for this particular one I'm making, my client wants it fitted. He always wants his cassock fitted. So I'm going to be adding 1.5 inch allowance. Then I'll add extra 1 inch for the sewing allowance. That is on the chest line. Now coming down to the half length, also maintaining my 1 inch mark that I have here. From that 1 inch, my client for his half length is 40 inches. So 40 divided by 4, that gives me 10. I'm going to measure 10 here. Then another very important thing I'm going to tell you is that always make sure and always try to make the half length a little bit smaller compared to the chest. It gives your cassock fitting. Let's assume that this client has a hot belly, and let's assume that his half length is 45 inches and then his chest is, let's say, 44 inches. I'll advise you to make that chest to be like 47 inches and then let the half length be that 45 inches. Make sure that at least always try to, just my advice, just from my years of experience of making cassocks, that is how I got this experience from that. It gives a kind of fitting when the chest measurement is a little bit bigger compared to the half length, or at most they should be of the same size. But when the half length is bigger than the chest measurement, while measuring and sewing, it doesn't really give a kind of fitting. So that is just by the way. Now I measured my 10 inches here, and then I'll add same 1.5 inches for freeness, and then extra 1 inch for the seam allowance. Now I'm going to connect these 2 points together. Now you know that we include the pocket allowance on the chest, on the half length. So for the pocket allowance, I'm going to be putting my pocket allowance after I have added the sewing allowance. Now for my pocket allowance, I'm going to be adding 3 inches. It depends on you. You can use 3 inches, you can use 4 inches. Okay, so it depends on what you want. Now I'm going to be adding 3 inches for my pocket allowance. All right, so I've added the 3 inches for my pocket allowance. But if you want yours 4, you can go ahead to put that to be 4. Especially for a very chubby person, I'll advise you use 4 inches for the pocket allowance. But this is an average individual, so I use 3 inches for the pocket allowance. Now coming back to this point, now from here, still maintaining, deducting my 1.5 inches, I'm going to come up with just 2 inches. Okay, now I'm going to measure the total I have from this point. So total here I have 9.5 inches. So I am going to measure this 9.5 inches here. And then I'm going to give that a straight line. So here, on this line here, so on this line here, so you can as well make it this way. On this line here, then I'm going to measure this line I have, then divide it by 2, and then come out by half of an inch. Then I'm going to connect this together. And also I'll come down by 1 inch, which is my shoulder slope, and that is it. Now I'm coming down to the neckline. From this 1 inch mark or so that I have, I'll measure for the neckline. So for the neckline, I'll measure 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. I'll come down by 2.5 inches, and then 2.5 inches. Then I'll make this So that is it. Then I'll connect from this neckline down to this shoulder slope, this 1 inch shoulder slope. So that is it. Now at this point, so connect from here, just connect that way. Now what I'm going to do next is this point, I'm not going to leave it pointed like this. I'm just going to give it a little curl. Like that. Now I'm going to measure what I have, the whole measurement I have, to my pocket allowance. The whole measurement I have is 17 inches. Now I'm going to come down at this hem here. I'll make sure I had 1 inch extra to that, which gives me 18 inches. So I'm going to measure 18 inches here. So here I have 18 inches. So whatever you have from this point down to the pocket allowance, just add 1 inch extra to that and mark that at your hem. So now I'm going to connect from this hem right to this pocket allowance here with a straight line. So let me make that into a straight line.